She gets up very, very early every day. First, she has to get her family up and ready for work or school. Coffee made, quick breakfast put on the table. And in between nudging her children to get up and to get dressed and get ready, and her husband finding his socks and his ties, she sneaks into the shower quickly, dresses, because she not only has to get everyone else on their way, she's got to get ready for work herself. The day is stressful. Her boss is unrelenting and heartless. She often wishes that she worked for a man. Once she gets home, you got that, did you? Once she gets home, she makes sure she picks up and drops off the kids from school to practice, music lessons, runs to the grocery store, grabs some essentials, some milk, some eggs, some bread, goes back and picks the children up from practice or music lessons, takes them home. On the way home, they stop at a fast food place. She grabs the dinner. She comes in, she looks at her house, and she says, "Oh, I got to clean this place. I got to get some time to do this." Her husband comes home, and he sees the fast food. He sighs and said, "Fast food again?" The children are quarreling. She's sick of her husband's complaining, and for a moment, she feels guilty. She feels like she's a failure. She's not a good mom or a wife. And then almost immediately, she has a conviction that she feels resentful, that all this is put on her. If her husband doesn't want fast food for dinner, then let him cook something himself. Let him run around after work carting the kids from place to place. The kids are now screaming, and she loses it. And she unloads all her frustration on anyone in sight. Women, why are you smiling at me right now? Her kids look stunned. Did mommy really say that word? Her most bitter sting is directed toward her husband. Everyone scatters. And she sits at the kitchen table and she weeps as the fast food gets cold. She does feel like a failure, and she feels guilty. She's let it all get to her, and now she's lost her patience once again. He's a good guy, and he sincerely loves his wife. But he can't help but think things he doesn't want to think. All through his day, he struggles whenever an attractive woman crosses his sight. Heck, his mind will go there even if the woman isn't attractive. These thoughts, which he tries to fight, stir something inside him that confuse and fill him with guilt. Why do I think such things when I have such a wonderful wife that I desperately love? Yet the temptation never seems to stop. Some researchers have said that men have up to 8,000 sexual thoughts a day. No matter what the research shows, he's torn apart each day as his lower nature battles with his higher nature. And the result is guilt and shame, consuming way too much psychic energy. The times that he gives in to the temptation leads him to other destructive and sinful behaviors, which leads to more guilt and shame. This cross is too much to bear. Oh, the struggles of our everyday life seem countless. He cannot control his foul language. She cannot control her idle talk. He struggles with laziness and procrastination. She struggles with self-esteem. And then there are the other struggles in life and things that keep us up at night and worry about our children. Well, let me tell you, it only gets worse when our children become our adult children. When they're your children, you have some control over the situation. When they become your adult children, hands off. All you have left is worry. And then there are the aging parents, that natural but painful movement when we have to begin to parent our parents. Of course, there's health issues and marital stress and failure, job security. How do we pay for our children's college education? How do we prepare for our retirement? So many things that can stress and worry us. The state of the political divide in our country, in fact, in the whole world, this increasingly rancorous political environment we find ourselves in. Economy that seems strong, but all of a sudden, in just a few days, the market lost 10% of its value. The climate change. And then there's the coronavirus. Is it something to worry about? It's in the back of our mind. It's just one more thing to give us pause. Of course, there's Iran. Then there's North Korea, China, and Hong Kong. Maybe that's why so many of us bury our heads in entertainment, sports, or social media. If you really look at what's happening, it's overwhelming, it's frightening, it's depressing. We feel that we're so helpless in the face of so many almost uncontrollable things in our lives. And so because we are feeling that helplessness, we try to ignore it. We think if we don't think about it, it won't bother us. But it does. We spend so much energy trying to avoid it, but every time we turn around, there it is. But there's another way. We don't need to be overwhelmed. We don't need to be frightened, and we certainly don't need to be depressed. Because the truth of the matter is, these things are beyond our control. The feeling of helplessness is objective. We can't do much about these things. Human strength alone is an inadequate defense. What is needed here is to take the little struggles in our life, as well as the huge struggles, and turn them over to God. To say and to mean it by praying, Father God, I trust in you. You see, the type of issues we face need divine solution. And we can't provide that. Only God can do that. To trust in God, however, requires on our part faith. We can do something about increasing our faith. What would you be able to do with a little more faith in your life? Not lose your patience as much? Win more of those inner battles? Curb some of your bad habits? Handle stress with more success? Free yourself of more worries? No matter what it is that distracts or frightens you, you need to look at it and say, my trust in God is greater than your power to scare me. For us to be able to do that requires faith. Sometimes we need to prove to God and to ourselves that we have that faith. And the very act of proving it to God and ourselves increases our faith. That is why the Catholic service has become so important for me personally, and I believe for this parish and for you as well. It provides an opportunity to take something that is valued above all else in our culture, our money. Our money symbolizes our power. Our money symbolizes our security. Our money symbolizes our independence. To take something that is so important in our lives and to demonstrate to God and ourselves that we believe more in His power than we do in the power of the almighty dollar. We demonstrate, practice, and make real our faith whenever we actually hand over to God what the world sees as a symbol and a means of power. When in prayerful reflection we make a sacrificial offering, we're really saying, Jesus is my Lord and Jesus alone rules my life. A sacrificial offering is one that determines how much we have minus how much we need. There's a difference between what we need, what we call levels of sufficiency, and how much we have. St. Paul defines that need as sufficiency. So there's a gap between our total resources and what we need for sufficiency. Our offering becomes sacrificial the closer it gets to the line of sufficiency. I tell people all the time, money's not important to me. And it's true, and I thank God that it's true, but it's not always been that case. when I was ordained, like the priest of my generation, I wanted to go on vacations. I wanted to buy nice clothes. I wanted to get a nice car. I immediately started planning for retirement, putting money away. But we didn't make much money. I think when I was ordained, we made $10,000 a year. I mean, pittance. And they took taxes out of that $10,000, by the way. And so right from the beginning, I tried to figure out ways that I could make more money. So I started doing talks, public speaking, eventually started working as a lawyer, and then doing business consulting. This whole time I was functioning as a priest. And I began to realize that I was spending a lot of my time and energy thinking, planning, making, and spending money. And that this time and energy that I was spending and giving to money and things of money meant I was not giving to God. God was not first in my life. And I think a priest who does not love God above all things is a priest without power. And I think the same could be said for parents. Same could be said for spouses. And I think it applies to all Christians in general. Before I bought into the value of CSA and what it could do for my life, I'd have to admit that during this time, when I was thinking and worrying about money, was some of the most miserable days of my life. I was always upset. I was always irritable. I was short-tempered. I was jealous. There was always these things plaguing me. I've told you this before, but first time CSA came around, Bishop Gahn is the one that brought it to our diocese, and he sent every priest a letter, and he asked us to give $100 to the CSA. I was outraged. I was outraged. I remember taking that letter and ripping it to pieces, wadding it in my hand, and throwing it across the room. How dare he ask me? The little that I make, you want me to give you money back? Are you kidding? I've given my life. You should be satisfied with that. And that's what I did. I held off. I didn't contribute at all to CSA. Because it's my money, not yours. I hadn't made that connection yet. Bishop Melzik came and he gave a talk. And intellectually, I saw the logic in it. And then I tested it. And then I found it to be true. And so what I ended up doing was quitting public speaking. I very seldom take any talks. I don't practice as a lawyer anymore, and I don't do any consulting work. I gave everything away because I had to prove to myself and to God that He was number one in my life. And guess what I found? Peace. I'm not saying I'm the happiest guy on the planet, because that's not true. I'm not saying I never get irritated, because that's not true. But believe me, there's a big difference from where I was and where I am today. And I attribute that to the idea that I've been able to connect my faith and my money, and every time I do this, my faith grows. And so instead of spending time and money saving for vacations and trips and other things, I spend all year saving for CSA so that I can make a contribution that I feel puts me as close to that line of sufficiency as possible. You know, what a deal. God offers releasing the money that I don't need to live on. In exchange for that, it has brought me to a peaceful and happier place in my life, a calmer place where God is number one and other things are secondary. And God offers that same bargain for you. CSA is a wonderful spiritual opportunity for all of us. You know, I really don't care what the total is for our parish, and I don't care how much this parish gets to keep. A few years ago, one of the priests called me, and he saw the figures. They published them in the Northwest Indiana Catholic. And he said, "Dude, did you see what you're doing? Your parish is doing?" I said, "No, I didn't." "What do you mean you didn't?" I said, "Well, I don't pay attention to that." "How could you not pay attention to that?" Or Bishop Melzick would call me and say, "Who is so-and-so?" I said, "Well, they're a member of my parish. Do you know how much they gave?" I said, "No, but I don't want to know." He said, "You should know." "I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I don't care about that. What I care about is that the faith in your hearts is increased." And I think you'd have to be blind not to see what this philosophy has done for this parish. We talk about club members and believers and disciples and making the movement from club members to believers to disciples. We've seen so many people come to discipleship. And a big part of that is the ability to connect your faith with your money. So I tell you this every year, and I mean it. CSA is not a fundraiser, but a faith raiser. I want you to have an increase in faith. I want you today to jump in with both feet. In spite of our tendency to sin, our individual weaknesses, and our struggles, we have to know that our God rules. Notwithstanding the pressures of this culture of death, our God rules. In the face of illness and disaster and even death itself, our God rules. I want you to know the inexpressible feeling of letting God rule your life completely, including what you do with your money. Now, I'm not just telling you, these are not just words. This is something I practice. As I told you, I save up. Last year, I doubled my weekly donation to the parish. And this year, again, this is what I can do, given my salary. I'm giving $5,000 to CSA. I've been told that puts me in the top 10 contributors in the parish. I don't care that, but I just want you to know I'm not just telling you to do this, I'm doing it myself. And I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't see real value in this. So please, you have the envelopes in your pews. What we do here is we pray. We ask a simple question to God. What do you want me to do? Don't start equivocating. Don't start debating in your mind. Listen to what God says to you and do it. Now, if you can do that now, that's great. If you need some more time to pray about it, that's fine too. We'll take the envelope in a week or two. But please, make this a sincere prayer. Ask the Lord what He wants you to do, and then do it.